Welcome to the Nürburgring for the second race here for the GT4 European Series Northern Cup. Yesterday was an absolutely fabulous race, full grid of cars. 37 cars went out to play, but it was Max Cobalt and Ricardo van der Ende who had everything under control. A great chase through to second place for Will Moore and Matt Nicol-Jones. And of course today we have a twist in the tail. The drivers that started yesterday will be going second today. So a chance for both drivers in the pairings to make their mark. But it was the BMW from Ecris Motorsport the whole way yesterday, their M4, the class of the field. Ahead of the Aston Martin, great variety at the top of the field because we had Aston Martin in second place and Akit Verschoor's McLaren, the 570S GT4 model, coming home in third place. Finley Hutchison and Jaber Moore. Finley will start the race today. Matt Nicol-Jones will start the Aston Martin, and Ricardo van der Ende, who brought the race-winning car, he will be at the helm of the Ecris M4 at the front of the field. But yesterday we had 37 starters, and at the end we had 30 finishers with one of the Aston Martins, a Generation AMR car, just withdrawing to the pits with a few minutes remaining. But some really great racing. Now, track temperature, it was 10 degrees when we checked earlier. This morning it's now 17, so it's going the right way. The clouds are starting to shift. And importantly, it's dry. Early predictions for weather here was rain, but they seem to be moving backwards by the day. We'll take that. Dry circuit every time. And looking forward to the grid, coming round 37 cars, as I said. Obviously, we've got the various classes. We've got the Silver, which is the leading runners. Then we've got the Pro-Am class and the Am. Yesterday, the Pro-Am winner was Alain Ferté and Grégoire de Moustier in their Energy Porsche Cayman, and the Am class was won by Autolando Sport, Giuseppe Ghezzi and Manuele Mengozzi. So if you've never had the fortune to watch a GT4 race, don't know what GT4 is, I will explain. It's a junior class to GT3, cheaper, more cost effective, and the manufacturers are all looking at it, not looking at it, they're all doing stuff with it right now, because more and more manufacturers are preparing cars to come out and be sold to customers. And Mercedes just brought their AMG model out a few weeks ago. It's already been out racing. Not here this weekend, but for next year you can be sure some of those on the grid. The 570S McLaren, incredibly popular. But right now you look at the Ecris M4 at the front of the grid. And certainly in the pairing, it's often about, in a two-driver race, about the strength of the pairing. And Max Cobalt, the young charger, and Ricardo van der Ende, who's been there, seen it, done it. They've already wrapped up this year's title. Constant excellence from that pairing. 4 wins now. They took 2 wins at the Red Bull Ring in June, 1 ring next time out at Slovakia Ring, but they're almost always on the podium, apart from a 7th place in the opening round, ironically at Zandvoort, their home circuit, where they did wrap up the title. Other than that, every race on the podium. Schwede Motorsport, Philip Bethke's team, has got Mark Basseng on board. They're new to the championship this weekend, and they've brought out 2 Porsche Caymans. Fantastic level of preparation. Mark Basseng has obviously been around for a very long time and really knows his craft. But it just shows how many teams have looked at this championship and thought, oh, I like the look of this. And some just dipping their toe in the water. This the final round of 2017, and I'm sure the numbers will be even greater next year. But the target keeps on moving, because the cars, as the manufacturers bring them in, get better and better. And the mix of the field is changing. A lot of KTM crossbows have been so popular over the last few years. Obviously not the sort of car you see in large numbers on the road, but so popular, and the fans love them too, with their bizarre door that pops up. The roof of the car comes up for the drivers to climb out. But there is the M4, the Ecris M4, starting on pole position, Ricardo van der Ende at the wheel. Beautiful level of presentation. Pole for this race on the pit wall side. Max Cobalt standing around in the background holding his helmet, but he'll be able to retreat to the garage to watch the start of this race. Race scheduled for 1 hour. Race due to kick off in just under 10 minutes at 11 o'clock. So the front row of the grid, Ricardo van der Ende, number 13, will start alongside, which is Schwede Motorsport, Mark Basseng. So what an impact they're making. So you can see the sign behind, pole in the Pro-Am class. Sorry, that's on the row behind them. They're not in the Pro-Am class, but right at the front end. Then 144 will be starting third on the grid. which is the Generation AMR Super Racing Aston Martin, the one that pulled off with a few laps to go. Matthew George will be at the wheel. There, that is. So 2 dark Aston Martins, the one that finished second yesterday. It's a little further down the order today. And that was the number 2 car yesterday. Generation AMR car that came up, sorry, number 62 car that came up from 8th on the grid, and it's about in the same position today. In fact, 7th on the grid, but the Generation AMR car up there in 3rd position. Again, the level of preparations of cars and the liveries and all the details that go with it going higher and higher in the GT4 European Series. One of the cars, another Aston Martin, this one really starred yesterday, finished in 4th place, Jerome Demey and Julian Darras, and Julian will be starting today. He did a good stint at the end to bring them home in that 4th place, but it's an Aston Martin, it can't be number 7, it has to be 007, of course. That's still that long connection with the James Bond movies that dated back to the DB5 back in the 60s. And don't worry, the car was delivered to the paddock looking like that, it wasn't left out overnight. But that car went very well, so we're looking to see if that one can advance. Starting 10th on the grid, but we'll be looking to move up. 112, this is one position ahead. We're working forward from 10th place. That is Pavel Lefterov, shares with Jean-Louis Jasper. Porsche Cayman's so popular in this championship. So just to reiterate, the drivers who started yesterday will be the drivers who go second today. So yesterday, Jean-Louis Jasper, German racer, started, and today it's the turn of the Bulgarian racer, Pavel Lefterov. Moving one position further forward, up to car number 15, the second of the cars from Schrader Motorsport. And that will be driven off the line by Rudolf Schulte, sharing with Dominic Schrammel. And the Schrader cars have similar liveries, but sort of flipped over, where one is orange, the other is silvery grey, and the other vice versa. There is the car that finished yesterday. Matt Nicol-Jones will kick that off. There was one little spin, one incident that dropped him away, but he wasn't going to catch the race leader yesterday. He had about a 6-second loss in one lap and added about another. He was about 6 seconds behind at the time. But Matt Nicol-Jones at the wheel now, and certainly he and his teammate Will Moore very happy yesterday. Right towards the end of the race yesterday, another car started progressing, got into the top 10, and it's Duncan Hausman who'll start before handing over to Luke Brahms. So there's a McLaren 570S. Thumbs up from Duncan. Of course, he's been there and done it. Porsche Super Cup champion over the years, along with his brother as well. They were just an absolute staple of the Porsche series in the 1990s. And Duncan, a lot of touring car racing as well. Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to nip down just spotted. We're going to have an interview with the pole car, because Dakota has caught up with the driver who'll start second, Max Kobold.
So you're on pole position right now. You had a great day yesterday. Is this going to be another successful day for you?
Yeah, we hope so. We started with yesterday good, so I hope Ricardo will also get a good start. I think now from this start it's going to be more difficult, because we had the KTMs more around yesterday. Yeah, the start. They're not that good as us, but now we have the Porsche and there's the Martin behind us, so it's going to be more difficult, but I think Ricardo can handle it quite well.
Do you have any underlying strategy?
No, just see how the race go and then just decide the strategy. We try to get it the same as yesterday, just control the pace and make a quite nice gap at the beginning so we can control the race, but I think it's going to be more difficult than yesterday.
Oh, you seem cool, calm and relaxed, so good luck, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, certainly Max Kobold does seem those three things: cool, calm, and relax, because and so he should, because they've got such strength, and the experience Ricardo van der Ende has should sort all eventualities around the first 3 or 4 corners of the opening lap, if indeed he's not already clear in that M4 BMW. 4 race wins to them already in the championship. Now 111. Another car that's hoping to make its mark towards the front end of the grid. In fact, that's 5th on the grid. That's Hendrik Still, sharing that with Razvan Umbarescu, and 111 will be started by the German racer Hendrik Still, who over the years we've seen in many cars, including the Sin R1, the car that's further back down the grid. 222, that's 4th on the grid. Ander Vitorino, he finished off yesterday's racing, sharing with Nicky Leutwiler. They crossed the line second in the Pro-Am battle, really right on the tail. In fact, a third of a second down on the class-winning Porsche. So right in the mix for Pro-Am honours. International pairing, Niki Leutwiler from Switzerland and Ander Villarino from Spain. So now the personnel being stripped clear off the grid. There is the Las Moras McLaren. You can see the roofs raised on the KTM crossbows, waiting for those to be lowered. Goes up as one unit. The drivers have to clamber in over those wide side pods. But now it's starting to clear. We've got Marc Basseng on the outside of the front row. That's the grandstand side in the Schrader Porsche Cayman. So what a splash they're making on their debut in the series. And there is the car that finished second yesterday for Redline Racing, which is Matt Nicol-Jones kicking off in the 62 Aston Martin today. And just to let you know where number 13 finished yesterday, it finished in 12th place overall, so it's really got a far better starting position today. What can it do? Interesting point from Max Cobalt, that the KTMs aren't brilliant off the line, and there were a lot of them at the front end of the grid. There were about 6 of the top 8, I seem to remember yesterday, were in KTM crossbows, and maybe that was what allowed Max to make that great start and be safe in the lead. And then, of course, they were jostling for position like crazy around the next few laps that really, really helped him to get away. Now it's the turn of his fellow Dutchman, his teammate of several years, Ricardo van der Ende, to see what he can do. It'll be a formation lap and then 1 hour of racing. So who's it going to be? Is it going to be the Porsche making a better start with Marc Basseng on the outside of the front row, or Ricardo van der Ende on the left, on the pole position? Dry conditions, broken blue sky today, but the good thing is the track temperature is gradually coming up. And again, we've got a packed 37-car field. A whole lot of the racing action was being provided yesterday by the KTMs that had a propensity to have a little clash with each other, but it was endlessly entertaining. But as you can see, the first KTM in the pack is down in about, I think, 10th position. Looks like it could be number 14. No, that's a bit further back. Angermar's down in about 20th position. We'll see as the grid comes back round. But certainly a different mix of cars at the front. Right in the middle of the screen, the number 33 McLaren, white with the red stripes. That had a torrid race yesterday. It was out very early on. So look for that. And I think there's a possibility that one might be carrying a penalty it has to take in this race, but more will unfold as the race gets underway. But it's Ricardo van der Ende leading around from Marc Basseng. Third place, number 144. Was down at the back end of the pack yesterday, so a different part of the grid for Matthew George. Let's take a look. Max Cobalt will stand on the sidelines as Ricardo van der Ende will start from pole position in the number 8 BMW. Marc Basseng, all those years of Porsche racing experience, now in a Cayman, starting on the outside of the front row. Matthew George, third on the grid in his Aston Martin. Ander Villarino also pitching in that Pro-Am class in his Cayman from position number 4. Hendrik Still will start number 5. Sorry, from 5th place, car number 111, yet another Porsche Cayman. And then Duncan Heisman, Luke Brahms will be starting with Houseman at the wheel, starting 6th on the grid. So plenty of variety. And Matt Nicol-Jones will start 7th in his Aston Martin that finished 2nd yesterday. Looking for people who are starting a long way back. 17th place, Alain Ferté and Grégoire Demoustier. Demoustier will start today, and don't forget, they finished 6th overall, so expect a charge from them. Also, Matt Siljehaug and Jamie Vandenbalk in their KTM crossbow. Number 64, they're starting 18th. They too were fighting in and around 6th place yesterday. And we keep on going. 37 cars will start this race. And it'll be Cora Schumacher on the penultimate row of the grid, who's sharing with Franjo Kovac their Porsche Cayman. Who else is down there who could be quick? Lederhauser and Schiff in there, they could move their way up the order as well in their KTM crossbow. Quite a few of the Maseratis down there in the last place on the grid. Ortolandi, number 74, one of their 2 Porsche 911s. And that is starting at 37th position. So that's Cerati and Fondi, number 75, I beg his pardon. So down they come, forming up in 2x2 position as they go down towards turn 13. A little kink on the back straight. On the left of screen, the pole starter who'll be starting on the pit wall side, Ricardo van der Ende. On the outside, Marc Basseng, 3rd place, Matthew George, 4th place, Ander Villarino. Hendrik Still in 111, and Duncan Houseman in that orange and black Las Maras Racing McLaren Cup. So the field bunching up, or some of the field, you can see the Sin coming in, and that's sort of mid-grid, so quite a few more need to get into position with this 37-car grid. So really, really a packed grid of cars, constantly growing. This is the story of the GT4 with a cluster of Maseratis. I know that the last car you can see is the white and blue Porsche at the tail of the grid. So this is the formation lap, an hour of racing, the last race of the GT4 European Series Northern Cup for 2017. The field at the front, very, very bunched indeed, a different mix of cars. The only thing that's the same at the front is that Ecris M4 is at the front of the field. The cluster of cars behind were not the ones that were fighting for outright honours yesterday. So look for Duncan Houseman in that McLaren from 6th on the grid. Let's see where he can go. Matthew George was down towards the tail end of the field yesterday, retired from the race late at the end, and now he's right under the tail of the BMW, looking at the red lights on the starting gantry. 1 hour of racing about to go underway. Wait, long hold, but a good start by the pole starting BMW behind. The cars are going 3 or 4 abreast, tucking into second place behind the race leader. Behind Ricardo van der Ende is Mark Basseng. What a charge up the inside from Matt Nicol-Jones into second place from, what was it, 7th on the grid in his Aston Martin. Might be getting a tap from a sister Aston Martin, isn't. Oh, Basseng got the tap. It was the Caymans all coming together. The car that started second shoved to the outside of the corner there very rudely indeed. I think Ander Villarino's in the car with a splayed front end at the back of the picture there, but it's Aston Martin's to the fore. The BMW leading Ricardo van der Ende, Matthew George in third, but that brilliant start puts Nicol-Jones into second place, and we've got an Aston Martin in fourth, being pushed very hard by one of the Schrader cars. In fact, that's the sister Schrader car trying to come back through, but at the moment it's Darras holding. Well, no, he's just lost fourth place, but Aston Martin's doing very well at the front of the field. You have to look a long way back to find our regulars, which are the KTMs. The best place of those is 74, which is Freiburg House, who's sharing with Kramer. So Kramer is starting the race in that one. Down the hill they come, the BMW at the front of the field. That was a little rude among all the Porsche Caymans down into turn 1. And I said look out for Duncan Houseman going forward. Sadly, I've got that wrong. He's lost 2 or 3 positions, but I expect him to pick them up. It got a little bit rowdy down at the first corner, and I think the Las Maras Racing McLaren was the one that really lost out in that mix. Already Ricardo van der Ende has made the break. He's got clear. The car's behind nose to tail. There is Finlay Hutchinson trying to pick up places in the middle of the pack in his McLaren. Wonderful shots. There's the Sin, the white car with the red and green stripes over the roof. That's losing position. 24 really going for quite a charge there in the middle of the order. So the number 2 drivers on the listings are the ones starting the race today. Just looking for any damage on the cars, none at all. Be interesting to see if those Caymans that clattered into each other at the first corner, fighting over second, third, fourth positions, have all managed to get going again. I suggest not all of them have. So we come towards the end of the opening lap, and Andy Merrick gaining positions in the Bullet Racing McLaren in the middle of the order. Oh, there is damage. Oh, dearie me. How can a commentator see the driver's door number if it's folded round like that? But it's 111. Of course, that was starting at the very front end of the grid. And for Hendrik Still, that was a short race. Door peeled back. He got caught up in that 3-car Porsche Cayman clatter down at turn 1. But for some reason, he's not seen any reason to come to the pits. It would be getting a little bit blowy in there. Certainly feel the officials will be reaching for a black flag to get that one back into the pit lane. Black and orange, not all is right with your car. Now Matt Nicol-Jones being pushed very, very hard for second place by Matthew George, and all along it was a 1.6 second advantage for our race leader, for Ricardo van der Ende, and I suggest that continues to go out. Still a third Aston Martin in 5th place, but it's 4th place, number 15, being driven very well indeed by Dominic Schrammel. So Schrader Motorsport really making quite a splash. There's Duncan Houseman, and right in behind him he has number 16, and that's Nico Rindlisbacher, and one of the cars that clattered on the opening lap, I think that's Ander Villarino's one coming into pit lane. Yes, so it is. So don't forget that was second, right on the tail of yesterday's Pro-Am winner, as across the line in 6th and 7th places. But today is another day, and not so good. Still this Aston Martin, very fierce battle, but I guess 1.6 seconds at the end of the first lap is going to be rather more this time around. You can see a little bit of a twitch under braking there for turn 11 from Matt Nicol-Jones, and another McLaren tried to advance, number 10. Yesterday it was started by Cybermore today. It's Finlay Hutchinson who's at the wheel in the early stage of the race. So 2-2-2, limping in, and Villarino. I thought from that long shot the front wheel was not at the right angle. It most certainly is not. Oh, 77 has taken to the undergrowth as well. So that was Romy Dall'Antonio. And here's the battered, broken 2-2-2 into the pit. So yesterday was a remarkably clean race, but unfortunately a few little clatters on the opening lap. Gap between first and second has actually come down a little bit. So Matt Nicol-Jones not only fighting very hard with Matthew George for second place, is closing on the race leader, Ricardo van der Ende. I thought he would stretch away as they tussled. In fact, fairly sure I said as much. George, though, third overall, leading the... this one has come in this time around. Could see Hendrick still has decided that's not the way to drive a car anymore. 1-1-2 taking to the curves, taking a very, very tight line yesterday. That's Pavel Lefterov. And he's just lost one position to the 74 car. 74 is the best of the KTMs. In sixth place overall, Cedric Freiberghaus. This battle for second place is fantastic. The Generation AMR car showing form it did not show in yesterday's race at all, and Matt Nicol-Jones, but don't forget, as they were fighting, I thought they would be dropping back from the tail of the race leader, but nothing of the sort. They actually closed in by a fraction yesterday. You'd have to suggest that rather more to repair on that car than just the front suspension, and I think that ought to be enough to take it out. But the race is an hour long. They can always go out again later in the race if they can get it fixed. But there is 77, didn't quite get through the sweepers as cleanly as he'd liked, beached in the gravel. That's in the second sector, and that's brought out yellow flags in that sector. No overtaking. Safety car is on standby. They do need to clear that to clear the beached number 77 Maserati from the gravel. So the safety car is coming out. That's for everybody's safety, so that can be shifted. That's in the second sector of the circuit. So in the sit there and pick up the race leader. Little cameo role in the opening sector of this lap. The fastest car of all through the first sector is a car in fourth place. So really, Schrader Motorsport with its Porsche Caymans making a massive splash. Yes, the sister car, number 13, got shoved down towards way down the order from its starting position with those clashes on the opening lap. In fact, it didn't complete the first lap. It's out of the race. Now here's a replay of the start. And it was really clean start, long hold of the lights, then bang, out they went, and Ricardo van der Ende getting the lead. Look for the black Aston Martin coming up on the pit wall side. Matt Nicol-Jones not taking no for an answer. And then what happened? Down into turn one, it was safe for the first few cars, but look, the clashing was all on the outside of the circuit between three Porsche Caymans, and out went the second place start, and that was the end of the race for Mark Basseng. Look at him in number 13. Oh, that was a hard hit in the side. And Villarino piling into the side of him, and Hendrick still in there too. And that's when the door got damaged. Oh, there was further damage. Andy Merrick came up and clouted the side of Still's Porsche. Maybe that's what did the door damage. But the door eventually weakened and flapped around, and that's why that's been made to come into the pits to have that investigated, repaired, removed. Here's another look on the inside. Slight tap on 13, actually, and now notice it from Matt Nicol-Jones. Put it a little bit sideways, and it put it into the path of two cars that were going steaming down the outside of the corner. And then a really, really positive start. Look for the black and green Aston Martin fighting with the street art racing Aston Martin, but Matthew George got up into that third place. Then a little clatter, number 15. Everyone seems to want to take out the newcomers. That's the second of the Schrader Porsche Caymans, going now on the outside of Julian Darras. Let's have a little look. Was there a bit of push down there? Certainly can't get much closer, but wonderful arts from the camera crews, slow-mo replays of these fabulous GT4 racers around the twists and turns of the Nürburgring, out over the curbs. That's at they're coming out of turn 6, some very much out of turn 6. Bullet Racing McLaren in the middle of the pack. Bit of heat haze for you there. What more can you ask for? And there's another of the McLarens coming up through from the tail of the order. Number 77, the reason for the safety car sitting with Dall'Antonio out of it. I think he might have been asked to get back into it in the gravel, so that is being removed. It's on the uphill sweepers, the Schumacher S, as it's known, the 9 and 10 sweepers. You can see where he just went into the corner too deep, and suddenly there was no tarmac, only gravel, and then beached his Maserati. Number 94 in the pits for repair, Henrik Kopi. And Danish racer Nikolai Rogevu. Door back down, ready to be sent back out. That's the team, RYS team Schoenreimer car. New pairing in that car. Last race it was shared by Achim Mortal and Edward Anton. Lots of people wanting to have an outing in this championship, get to really get a feel for it for the year ahead for 2018, which will be the biggest year in GT4 racing history. So far, 2017 is by far the biggest year in GT4 racing history, spreading all around the planet, and a lot of the drivers having a go in this and taking a look at the big brother, if you will, which of course is GT3. So, still behind the safety car, led around by Ricardo van der Ende in the Ecris M4 that started from pole position. Really quick start from 7th position up to 2nd by Matt Nicol-Jones. 3rd resulted to 3rd after a bit of tussling for Matthew George in his Aston Martin, and then Dominic Schrammel is 4th for Schwede Motorsport, the new team that's been given a bit of a battering, but still going well at that end. And 5th place is then the number 74, best of the KTM Crossbows, RYS Team True Racing, Cedric Freiberghaus. And that is the back of the pack. We still have a number of cars in the pits having repairs, including Hendrik still having the door fixed on his 111 Porsche, but we've got 31 cars still out there and running at the moment. Obviously lost Mark Basseng, really unfortunate. Started on the outside of the front row and got muscled out. A little bit of a push from, which I didn't spot to start with, from Matt Nicol-Jones, but it was the damage from the Porsche Caymans coming in from behind. Ander Villarino, also his car very damaged in that incident. Hendrik still involved in that incident and then had a clatter with the Bullet Racing McLaren as they exited turn 2. So a busy couple of corners to start the race off, but now we've got through that, waiting for the safety car to withdraw. The teams reminding their drivers they need to be 5 car lengths apart or thereabouts during the safety car distance, 5 car lengths or less. Any more than that and the field gets stretched too much. We've seen it in various championships and races around the planet. So those at the back, that Auto Orlando Sport Porsche needs to just have a little bit of a catch up. So nearly out of the gravel, so Romy Dall'Antonia enjoyed quite a good race yesterday, but today not so kind. And of course, in a race like this, if you get caught out, get your car damaged, it means your teammate does not get to go out and play, which is obviously very, very unfortunate. Yeah, Dall'Antonia, placed very well. Placed 3rd in the AM class yesterday, along with Giuseppe Fascicolo. 19th place overall, but today it looks like a 0 in the score chart. All along, though, through the course of the morning, conditions getting brighter here at the Nürburgring. Track conditions dry. Yesterday they were damp and took quite a while to dry, particularly on the curbs and any area where the shade of the grandstand was washing over the circuit, but today it's uniformly dry. Waved yellow flags around the circuit. The safety car still out at the front of the field. So Ricardo van der Ende starts another lap. That's 5 laps on the board. Matt Nicol-Jones tucked in behind in his Aston Martin. Matthew George in the 144 Aston Martin in 3rd place. In fact, just before the safety car period, we did have a change of position in that Julian Darras lost out to Cedric Freiberghaus in that battle for 5th place. So still 3 Aston Martins in the top 6. But at the start of the race, the Porsche Caymans fell around and suddenly the grunt off the line of the Aston Martins, and also being in the right place on the right time, which was the inside line into turn 1, really gave them a great advantage. So drivers weaving from side to side in a time-honoured fashion to get heat into their wheels. That's Marek Bockman, new to the championship this weekend in that 994 Porsche. Must say the Maseratis, they're not the fastest car in the field anymore. The world's moved on, they're Gran Turismo MC, but they do sound absolutely fantastic. The Beza Group car, you can just see it going down the slope. That's Cora Schumacher. At the wheel, shares that with Franjo Kovac. There it is, Beza Group, number 20. Franjo did a lot of racing in the 24-hour series with his Mini, but he's really, really enjoying the conversion to GT4 level. And they're running effectively last of the field. So conditions good. How long until the lights will go out on the safety car? I can tell you, I've just got a message. Safety car in at the end of this lap. So pay attention at the front of the field, if you will. Ricardo van der Ende, he'll have had his eyes like lasers looking to see when the lights go out. They're at turn 12, 11 going into 12 at the top of the hill before they drop down the back, and the safety car will keep its lights on until it goes into the dip and leave, and that is the point at which the driver behind is responsible for noticing, yes, the lights are now out. He's seen it as they come out of turn 12, so he's got to focus. Matt Nicol-Jones, such a strong start away from the grid, 7th up to 2nd. He might quite fancy his chances, but he's got to... When van der Ende puts the throttle down, probably just coming out of the chicane, he's got to accelerate hard with it and see if he can get close enough. Not allowed to overtake until they get to the start-finish line, but certainly allowed to close right in. So it's van der Ende, Jones, George, Schrammel, Freiburg, House and Darras. Lots of different makes of cars. Aston Martin very well presented there. And then 7th place, Pavel Lefterov, Duncan Houseman. Look for him, he had a slightly poor opening lap. I think circumstance got away from him. Now full power. Admittedly, he has to slow down for the final corner, but he's already made a charge. Matthew George, if anything, has gained on Matt Nicol-Jones. Nicol-Jones not close enough to make a move, can't overtake till the start-finish line, but what's he like in a straight line in the Aston Martin? Is he going to be able to close? Line astern behind, you can see the Bullet Racing. Number 33, McLaren, also making a move. He's picked off Nico Rindlisbacher, so 1 place gained at least by that McLaren, but he's got to watch out coming up the inside. Oh, 22, very late on the brakes. That was Jörg Wiebahn, but he knows how to drive these Porsche Caymans, and the Team Partrax car, the red and yellow one with the Momo livery, lost out a little bit there, because number 10 went past as well, Finlay Hutchinson, so he got demoted in the short order by 2 of the McLarens. 74 ahead of 07, Cedric Freiburg House, and 07, Julian Darras, and behind Darras is Pavel Lefterov, but at the front of the field it's Ricardo van der Ende, bit of a gap, Matt Nicol-Jones, Matthew George, really well driven, Dominic Schrammel, Schrader Motorsport, Porsche Cayman as well, line astern there. Good to see one of the Auto Orlando Porsches in the mix there. I think that was Manuele Mengozzi. Because in the GT4 class, the Porsche 911 is sort of, in some ways, yesterday's car. The Porsche Cayman has been the one to have, but who knows what Porsche's got up its sleeve, because all the manufacturers are wanting to bring something new, squeaky clean and special to GT4 as it continues to grow. Ricardo van der Ende continuing to lead, and the story as it was in the first part of the race. Matt Nicol-Jones being pushed very hard indeed by Matthew George. But don't forget, just before the safety car period, we had Nicol-Jones and George, as they were fighting, managing to close the gap very slightly on Ricardo van der Ende. Maybe Ricardo was taking it easy. Again, he's opened out that advantage. It was about 1.3 seconds, I think, when we had, at one point early in the race, went up to a little bit more, and then it started coming back a bit. Look out for Andy Merrick in that Bullet Racing McLaren. He's up to, I think, about 10th or 11th place. He's got another McLaren in front of him, that's Duncan Houseman, so he's in fact up to 9th place. And off the circuit. And there's something down on the track there, because 2 of the cars in short order and the second of the McLaren in that grouping ran very wide out of the chicane. It's almost so there's a little bit of oil. Number 22, Jörg Wiebahn, also went wide. Very unusual incident there. Didn't expect to see Andy Merrick. He wasn't close enough to another car to be making a challenge into that position, but that will have certainly not helped his progress. But 3 cars all having a bit of a twitch. Nico Rindlisbacher trying to fight his way back, but Jörg Wiebahn, wise to that one, takes the 22 Cayman across the nose, the red and yellow car, all perfectly legitimate. And Finlay Hutchinson in the white, blue and black McLaren having a look as well. This is the battle for second place as Ricardo van der Ende continues to stretch his advantage. 1.2 at the end of that lap. Matthew George, a better exit from turn 4. Really getting a run on Matt Nicol-Jones, not likely to be able to make a move through this turn, which is turn 5, or turn 6, or the kink at 7. If he wants to make a move, turn 8 could be the place, but it is really rather do or die down at the bottom of the hill. Almost touching the tail of Matt Nicol-Jones' Academy Motorsport Aston Martin. If anything, I sense Dominic Schrammel starting to close in behind as they tussle. Matt Nicol-Jones got the inside line covered at the hairpin. It's a big, wide, bit like a spoonbill, the hairpin down at the bottom of the hill, the shape of the corner. Wide goes narrow, but very much status quo. Battle between the 2 black Aston Martins. Matthew George certainly means business. Spent last year racing in GT4 as well. And he's been he and his teammate Jim Holder have been contesting both this championship, the Northern Cup and the Southern Cup this year. Just can't get enough racing in, which is what we like to see. Great little battle between Rindlisbacher and Wiebahn, battling over 10th place. Andy Merrick ahead of them, but it'll be interesting to see if Merrick gets the chicane right this lap. Here is the approach to the chicane. Ricardo van der Ende looks as though his advantage has gone up very slightly. Look at the background, the white car with the red stripes up the nose. This is the point where Merrick went off last time. All of the drivers ahead of him seem absolutely fine. Dominic Schrammel has now got his orange and silver grey Cayman right onto the tail of Matthew George, and certainly Cedric Freiberghaus has made himself safe in 6th place. Bit of a gap back to Julian Darras in the 007 Aston Martin. He's got Duncan Houseman right behind in his McLaren. Flash of the lights from the Dutch veteran. Finley Hutchinson not able to get his McLaren up towards the front as yet. But again, Rindlisbacher fighting very hard in the 16 Porsche Cayman, see if he can get around Jörg Wiebahn, but Jörg has been there, seen it, done it in GT4 racing, and has all the lines covered. Now change of position behind, because suddenly Matt Nicol-Jones has got a different car behind, because there's a different one in front, because Matthew George has made a move stick around the arena section, and suddenly Matt Nicol-Jones back to third, got Dominic Schrammel on his tail. Now, having got past in the green nose black Aston Martin, can Matthew George pull away? Let us see. So lap number 9, we have a passing manoeuvre up to 2nd place. This has already opened out a little bit of a gap. Can he set off after our race leader, who is starting to escape? But on the form of yesterday, Ricardo van der Ende and Max Kobel were supreme in this extra BMW. But until that late spin from Matt Nicol-Jones, or delay, whatever cost him 5 or 6, 7 seconds of one lap, there was only 6 seconds between them as we went into the final quarter of the race, so they had the pace to stay with him. Dominic Schrammel in his Porsche Cayman, ahead of Cedric Freiberghaus. Looking for any changes. First 5 come out of turn 12 down the slope. Duncan Houseman has now made a move. He's got past Julian Darras, so he's up into 6th place. I sense he was being somewhat delayed. Duncan Houseman maybe would be able to start closing towards that 5th place crossbow. This little Porsche Cayman scrap is great. Jörg Wiebahn holding off Nico Rindlisbacher in the red and yellow Porsche Cayman. Wiebahn, obviously European champion, well not obviously, but he was European GT4 champion in the AM class in 2013, but overall champion last year, so he's got a proud record. And what's happening on this lap is Andy Merrick starting to catch Pavel Lefterov. Again, pushing at turn 1. Pavel, and this time Nico Rindlisbacher gets alongside, but he's on the wrong position for turn 2. He's on the outside line, and his car's starting to wash away. And I think Finley Hutchinson reckons this could be half an opportunity for him to move his McLaren into the mix. But as they go down to turn 3, he just didn't get the right traction out of turn 2. So it's still the 2 Porsche Caymans ahead of him as they fight left and right here and there, fighting over 10th place overall. And you feel this is a battle that's got the legs to go the distance. Who's going to make a slip up? And I really think in terms of outright speed, the McLaren with Finley Hutchinson at the wheel ought to be quicker, but he's bottled up behind. He's got to find a moment, not always easy because these cars are taking different lines on consecutive laps. He cannot predict where they're going to be in the battle between Rindlisbacher and Jörg Wiebahn, but Wiebahn very tidy. Now, I said, let's see if Duncan Houseman could start to drop the Aston Martin 007. Yes, he most certainly had. 6th, having made the move on the last lap, setting off after Cedric Freiberghaus. Early part of the lap, gaining a 10th of a second here or there. Up to turn 11, still Jörg Wiebahn. Look in the background of the shot, in a second now they've come into the view. There it is, the red and yellow Porsche Cayman tucked in behind, yet again, possibly closer than before. Now Nico Rindlisbacher really trying to unsettle Wiebahn, but Wiebahn has been there and done it before. He knows where to place his car. I reckon the move's coming up the inside. not quite close enough for Rindlisbacher. Hutchinson has to hang back a little bit, doesn't want to get too close in case they clash. Better exit from the chicane, but there's not going to be enough space there, so close to touching. But now we're going to have Wiebahn going slightly wide on the exit, but so does Rindlisbacher. Will there be a move down into turn one? This is fighting over 10th place. Finley Hutchinson doesn't really know where to put his car. He's going to try and go, oh dear, left, right, which way are you going to go? Lap after lap, we've seen Rindlisbacher take the inside line, but I sense Hutchinson might be able to do the wide in, tight out line. Now 1-1-2, Pavel Lefterov really starting to trouble Julian Darras. Julian's starting to suffer from understeer in that 007 Aston Martin. And it can really be sensed Andy Merrick has caught this battle for 7th place. It's no longer the 2, it's the 3. You can just see the nose of the McLaren coming into the picture, the Bullet Racing car. Now, there's the 007 Aston Martin. In between, we've got number 1-1-2, the Pavel Lefterov driven Porsche Cayman, then Andy Merrick, then this wonderful battle for 10th place, which has stayed in the order in which it started the lap, and the lap before, and the lap before that. Not for want of trying on behalf of the Team Partrax driver, though. Nico Rindlisbacher really, really pushing. Well, just a funny little message on the screen. I did say that the driver of the number 76 Porsche, I think that was the one I noticed, had exceeded the 5-car length distance, and it's under investigation for that as well. So these stewards, they have eyes like hawks. And the pit window is now open. It opens 25 minutes into the race and is open for 10 minutes. So I don't know who's going to jump out of it. Certainly if I was one of the drivers bottled up behind a battle like Finley Hutchinson, I might come in very early indeed. Can do so this time around. First to second, though, we haven't really talked about that gap for a while, but Ricardo van der Ende has not enjoyed the enormous advantage that Max Kobold had yesterday, because he's sitting on an advantage over Matthew George of just 1.6 seconds. There he is, he could come in, but he's missed his opportunity. Don't expect him in straight away. But Matthew George, very, very impressive drive from him, and it looks so he's possibly even closer this lap than the lap before. Matt Nicol-Jones trying to keep up with them in 3rd place. It's 1.6 seconds, it's down to 1.4, then only 1.2 to Matt Nicol-Jones, who's just set another very good lap indeed. These very consistent drives at the front of the field. Jörg Wiebahn, so we've obviously, the first of the pit callers is Finley Hutchinson. Did I predict that? I think I did. But he'd been stuck behind that battle for 10th place. Andy Merrick really fancies gaining a few more places before he hands over to his teammate, Stephen Patrick. But there is the Equipe Verschoor McLaren. And the car that was tucked in behind him, number 4, that should be Grégoire de Moustier. That was the car that won the Pro-Am class yesterday. You just know where to put the cameras. Put them on 22 and 16 because it's such a great battle. But Jörg Wiebahn doing nothing wrong, just putting his car where it needs to be. Nico Rindlisbacher is going to have to try some different lines to go past. Oh, he decided there's a different line to try, but not quite at the right place, going into turn 5. It might happen, but I think that could lead to contact. So, well, the first car into the pits wasn't the first car back out because one of the KTM crossbows was emerging. I'm not sure if that was out of sequence because everyone else has come in and is stopping for a similar amount of time. He was in for some work on the car. I've just heard whisper it was the 90. I think it might have been the 94 car because there's a minimum pit time you're allowed. You're allowed to exceed your pit time. Obviously, that's not recommended, but very unlikely. The Equipe Verschoor team had been held that long. So still, Jörg Wiebahn holding down 10th place. And of course, it was the car from behind that grouping that decided enough is enough. I will go and make my pit stop, and that's the McLaren there. Seeing that's number 10. Just saw Finley Hutchinson walking away, and Zaba Moore will be on board already. Out front, Matthew George had a really, really good lap, and a poor lap for Matt Nicol-Jones. Nicol-Jones looks about 3 seconds down on George. And there's the first car of those that came into the pits, and now we've got Matt Nicol-Jones coming into the pits. He really rather lost about 2 seconds on that lap. I don't know if he already had his mind on other matters. He got to 1.2 seconds down on Matthew George on the start-finish line. But here come our race leaders, the first of the pit. Someone wandering in front of the cars. Is that the pit lane? There is our race leader, Ricardo van der Ende. Matthew George, 1.2 seconds. He's had 2 laps in a row where he's taken 0.2 of a second out of Ricardo van der Ende. I think Ricardo's only doing this just to keep Max Kobold on his toes. But here comes Matt Nicol-Jones, the first of the frontline runners to come in. This, don't forget, was from 3rd place. How good is the Academy Motorsport pit stop going to be? Handing over to Will Moore. They're down towards pit exit, which is a really good place to be. So Will Moore, tall figure, hoiks politely his teammate out of the car. Well done, buddy. Pat on the back. And then feeds himself in, makes sure the belt's in the right position for him to get on board. That second place yesterday was a really good result for them. They had a second place earlier in the year. Right in the opening round, they picked up one of the first two races were held at Misano. In the second one of those, they finished second to, yes. Well, actually, not the BMW. That finished third on the podium. It was Jonathan Chicotto and Lennart Marionek who won the opening race at Misano in the KTM Crossbow. So, the first of the cars that went into the pit came in from 12th position. Now it's Zaba Moore. Don't forget, yesterday he was running in second position for a lot of the race, the early stage of the race. So he's got pace in that McLaren. Pit stops coming thick and fast, but really the one that we can gauge how things are going is when the 62 Aston Martin goes back into the race. There it is, waiting for the minimum pit time to be reached, and then he'll be given the signal, go on, carry on the good work started by Matt Nicol-Jones. So Will Moore out, and don't forget the two cars that were in front of him have yet to come into the pits. It's still Ricardo van der Ende leading and Matthew George in behind. And the first car, that's the gap between the first of the pit visitors. That's the black-nosed McLaren, now with Zaba Moore. So he's about 8 to 10 seconds down on the Aston Martin that rejoined from third place. And here our first two again, 1.2 seconds last time, 1.7 seconds, very important lap. Is it going to be the lap before he comes in? Still about time for 2, possibly even 3 more laps before the pit window closes. In comes the 007 Aston Martin. Don't forget that was in 7th place. Lost a couple of positions on the circuit, not so long. And our two Porsches close on the track, close in the pit lane. Jörg Wiebahn comes in ahead of Nico Rindlisbach. A great bit of driving for them. So effectively the cars from the tail end of the top 10 coming in to make their stops, and behind them one of the Crossbows as well, joining them in the pit lane. So the 16 car Nico Rindlisbach will be handing that over to Bernhard Laber, who shared it last time out with Christian Danner, the old ex-Grand Prix driver, the Bavarian inaugural Formula 3000 champion many moons ago. Now 22, Jörg Wiebahn hopping out, and he'll be handing that over to Jan Kasperlik. So very experienced pairing. Jörg looked a little cross there. I think he's just taking his gloves off so he can help do up the seat belts with greater accuracy once Kasperlik is on board. So busy place, the pit lane, but it hasn't had a visit from our first two runners on the circuit who haven't made a stop, which is Ricardo van der Ende and Matthew George. Julian Darragh had a good stint, but Jerome Demey is the driver who really delivers in that street art racing. Aston Martin, talking of Aston Martins, there is Will Moore pressing on. He is the front runner among those who've made a pit visit, so he's down the race order at the moment, but he's waiting for those who haven't stopped to come in. Will he still be in effective third place when van der Ende has hand over to Max Cobalt and Matthew George to Jim Holder? Everything controlled in the pit stops. There's a minimum pit stop time which stops teams from rushing, also stops them from employing too many people. Now that's the Schrader car coming out. Will it get out ahead of Will Moore? Need to see that sequence as it goes out down turn 2 and turn 3, because Dominic Schrammel had a really good run in that car, and it should now be in the hands of Rudolf Schulter. So I think very close to the Aston Martin, so it could have been position gained by the Schrader Motorsport crew. First two gone through again. In fact, van der Ende into the pits. Just spotted van der Ende going into the pits. So Matthew George leads the race, came down on his own, but well, the Aston Martin did just stay ahead of the number 15 Porsche Cayman. So Rudolf Schulter's got plenty to do, but Will Moore is ahead, stays ahead, but look very close to the Schrader car. They're really making a splash on their debut in this championship. Ricardo van der Ende out, that you can just see next to the graphics there. There is the number 8 Ecris Motorsport BMW, and all looks under control there as Max Cobalt is strapped in. So Matthew George will be taking this last lap before a pit stop, handing over to Jim Holder, and he is the quicker of the drivers in that car. The 62 car, though, very well-balanced driver pairing. Matt Nicol-Jones started, brought it in from third position, and the best of those who's pitted is his co-driver, Will Moore. So back on terra firma for the Ecris M4. Will they wrap up their season? They've already landed the overall title. Will they wrap it up with their 5th win of the championship. 5th win from 12 races. Certainly a really, really good score. On the podium every race bar one. So still at a standstill in the pits. Don't expect Wilmore to be ahead round the final corner, and though the BMW's in the pit lane accelerating away, in fact if anything they've improved, because it was a slightly slow in lap. It looks about a 6-second advantage. Also we have to wait to see into the pit. Surely will be coming Matthew George in the 144 Aston Martin. So this is the Aston Martin 62 that was in 3rd. There is the 144 just in the nick of the time. Has to get to the white line at the entry of the pits before the clock says 25 minutes. It's 25 minutes and 40 seconds or so. So he couldn't have waited another lap. In from 2nd place comes Matthew George. The pit lane should be remarkably empty for this. A few others coming in behind, including Duncan Houseman. Duncan Houseman gained a lot of ground in his McLaren. So Las Maras Racing will be handing over to Luke Brahms. But that was a really good in lap. Slightly difficult area for parking in the pit lane there for Matthew George, but a very good stint for him there. And by the time they put Jim Holder on board the KTM Crossbow, they're sitting right in front of it, should be out of the way. Maserati is fighting away down to turn 1. Car 44, that's just been handed over. Naomi Schiff to Marilyn Niederhauser. Crossbow's not been such a feature in this race. It was the 74 that was the most impressive of those. Cedric Freiberghaus has now handed that over to Laura Kreihammer, but the pit window now closed, as you can see on your screen. Once you get to the 35-minute point in the race, nobody else allowed into the pits to make a pit stop. So the Equus BMW seem to have it all under control. But how good will the pit stop be for this car? Don't forget it was about 2 seconds behind when the BMW peeled off, and it had been as close as 1.2 seconds. So certainly a really good stint from Matthew George, but he's given it all to do to Jim Holder now. And still that Porsche Cayman is sitting up on its jacks ahead of it, so hopefully that doesn't obstruct his exit. Round out of the chicane, and now the Aston Martin gets rolling, but it's not as close to pit exit. This could be very, very close indeed. Will Jim Holder emerge in the lead of the race? Full bore acceleration for Max Cobalt. I think he's just going to be able to take the lead, but look, it's very close. The white line is now crossed. The Aston Martin can start accelerating towards pit exit. It's not going to have enough speed. He's just going to be behind when he's allowed to come out of the pits. Won't have the heat in the brakes. Down to turn 1. That's less than 1.2 seconds. Max Cobalt had to dive in, brake very late, and managed to get his M4 just around the corner. So Jim Holder there, did he lead for half a nanosecond? Can't be sure, but certainly the speed as he came out of the pits of the BMW coming down the start finish straight. And as always, we have drive-through penalties for speeding in the pit lane. 30, is that one of the front runners? No, it's CD Sport Porsche Cayman. 44, that's Naomi Schiff, Marilyn Niederhauser, and 112. That was a car towards the front end. That was Pavel Lefterov who started, handing up to Jean-Louis Jasper. Let's hope more numbers are not added to that strap at the bottom of the screen. So it should all settle down, and very close between the race-leading Equus M4 BMW and the Generation AMR Aston Martin, and don't forget also in the mix, but it seemed to have a slightly slow in-lap, was the 62 Aston Martin. So let's establish the positions. Max Cobalt just squeaked past Jim Holder, who took over from Matthew George, and you can see Holder on his outlap is taking a while to get up to speed. So what was super close as they emerged, he's now going to have a race on his hands, but the race is coming from behind. Wilmore, several laps into his stride, is going to start taking great chunks out of Jim Holder over the next 2 laps. And Luke Brahms has found himself quite nicely up the order in the orange and black McLaren there from Las Maras Racing. Duncan Houseman started it, and Luke Brahms is under huge pressure to try and finish it. Tucked in behind 74, still listed as Cedric Freiberghaus, but it should be Laura Kreihammer in that orangey red nose KTM. And tucked in behind Rudolf Schulter took over from Dominic Schrammel. Seems to have lost a few positions. Don't forget he was rather close to the 62 Aston Martin. These early laps for Rudolf Schulter have not been good. He's going backwards through the field, unfortunately. But great to have Schrader Motorsport on board, and Luke Brahms offers no resistance as Laura Kreihammer comes on through. So that by far the best of the KTM crossbows in this race. In the background, Sarbermore, watch out for him, the black, white and blue McLaren. That is a car that's definitely got the pace to catch these 3, and I would suggest pass them. 21 and a bit minutes remaining in this race. So it's Max Cobalt from Jim Holder, from Will Moore, from still saying it's Cedric Freiberg House. I have to get clearance on that. In at the 74, just looking quickly through my notes to see who started that car yesterday. Laura started it yesterday, so it is Laura Kreihammer. So yeah, it's worth using my notes. Now, Jim Holder, I said Will Moore would catch him, and he has in the space of 3/4 of a lap. And at this point, I'm not sure that's quite the place to go for an overtaking manoeuvre, but it is a question of when, not if, as they go out of turn 6. Kinking left through turn 7. Jim Holder not really hugging the inside line through that corner, but he's got a nice wideish entry, being quite defensive down into the hairpin, and Will Moore's wide to that, so he goes wide on the way in to try and be tight on the way out to get the quicker exit as they start climbing the hill up to the Schumacher S. Still Jim Holder in his Aston Martin holding down second place as his teammate Matthew Moore did before. But what's happened is that Max Cobalt has rocketed clear of Holder. He was 6.1 seconds clear on the start-finish line, and there is a change of position for second place. I don't think Will Moore's braked too late. No, he's managed to keep it on the track, and he took 5 seconds out of him on the previous lap, so that's why he was able to get his Aston Martin up into second place. And now, having taken the second place yesterday, he's going to try and head off and see what he can do about that number 8 BMW, but on yesterday's form he could get close, but not as close as he'd want to make a pass. 1 second stop and go penalty for car number 11, and that was a car that was that's the Sin, Ivan Vlachov driving that solo, so he's down the order a little bit. He's outside the top 20. In fact, he's blind to me. He's 14th on the screen. I couldn't see his number on the screen, but he's going to have a 1 second stop to go penalty. That will put him outside the top 20. Laura Kreihammer, now she's got hit clear of Rudolf Schulze, pulling away. Luke Brahms losing ground now, so I thought the McLaren who was coming forward, number 10, would continue to do so. Luke Brahms struggling to keep with the pace, but number 10, Saba Moore, no struggle at all for him, so expect that to advance up into 6th place. Brahms in 6th place at the moment, but Moore really flying, and he was the quicker of the pairing with Hutchinson yesterday, and doing so all over again today. But Hutchinson hampered by being deep in the pack in the first half of the race. Jim Holder, you feel his time in second place is going to be in short supply, because Laura Kreihammer, now that her name is on the screen, is really making a great charge. She's 4th in that number 74 KTM Crossbow. They're going out over the curves, being chased by Rudolf Schulze. Luke Brahms losing ground, but gaining ground. Saba Moore in the white, blue and black McLaren. In the background of the shot behind Moore is Alain Ferté. It's been a quiet race so far. Grégoire Demoustier started it, but Ferté finished 6th yesterday to win the Pro-Am class. He's up to 8th again, and he is just really getting back in the racing groove. One of France's greatest wasted talent, but great that in his 50s he's back out to play and loving it. There he is, the French veteran, found his helmet not so long ago. Car number 112. I'm afraid their team manager's going to get some fitness work. That was Pavel Lefteroff, Jean-Louis Jasper to see team manager to race control to follow the worn stretch of carpet up into the commentary, into the tower there. Oh, Jim Holder's really going to have to fight to hold position. I think he'll hold it for one more lap through the chicane. Has he left the door open for Laura Kreihammer? No, he hasn't. Bouncing over the curbs, the two of them through the chicane. 17.5 minutes remaining, but I think 17.5 minutes would be a bit too long for Jim Holder to resist the charge of Kreihammer. Certainly the KTM Crossbow driver has made a better exit from turn 1. Aston Martin has great power in a straight line, but the KTM Crossbow 2 car lengths behind as they go over the start-finish line. This, the battle for 3rd place at the moment, and again the power of the Aston Martin down the start-finish straight pays off. Rudolf Schulze starting to come back at them in the Schrader Porsche Cayman behind, number 15, taking a slightly wide line. No, not the greatest of lines through turn 1, so loses a lot of what it's gained, but Laura Kreihammer very tidy indeed. Jim Holder still holding on to 3rd place, but he's left the door open. Down into turn 3 comes Kreihammer. Can she get the braking done? Yes, she can. That KTM Crossbow so nimble, able to get her back across into position out of turn 4, accelerating down the hill, and in fact a slightly slow run out of turn 4 by Holder allows Schulze to close in. In the background, Moore is catching both of them. Moore has got past Luke Brahms, so the McLaren keeps on coming. quite frankly, with just over 16 minutes remaining in this race, we could have the Equipe Vauxhall McLaren on the podium for a second day running. The finishing order yesterday was the number 8 BMW that's leading today by 8.6 seconds. Second place is the car that's again in second place, Will Moore and Matt Nicol-Jones. Third place yesterday was Hutchinson and Moore, so they're up to 6th, and we could have a repeat. But I really quite fancy the chances. Yeah, there is Moore in the background. But actually, how about Alan Ferte? Ferte has caught up with Moore very well indeed over the last lap. In fact, he took 1.25 seconds off him last time around. Now he's got Schulter taking a look at Jim Holder. Now that pass has been made by Kreihammer. So it's all changed. The tail end of the podium. It could be one of 3 crews that get up there. Someone smashed one of those Pirelli boards on the outside of the circuit, gone for a bit of a run over the curves and far beyond on the exit of turn 12, which would have been scary. So Schulter has no resistance at all to Moore. Looks like Ferte will have to speed up the hill. So I'm afraid that was just a bit of lack of experience from Schulter, but shows good pace in between. Luke Brahms trying to hang on in the background in the orange flank McLaren. Great little battle now for third place. Jim Holder up the inside. Well, I was going to say up the inside, but the driver came up the inside was Alan Ferte. He seems to have so much poise and balance in that Porsche Cayman. He got past Zaba Moore, and now he really fancies a shot at Holder. Holder, of course, in 4th position, not 3rd, because Kreihammer got past him. 33 McLaren having a penalty. I think it's gone past the stop box in the pit lane. Oh dear, Zaba Moore getting shoved right out of the position down at turn 1. So really it's Ferte who's looking good for the final step on the podium. He's got to get past Jim Holder, who's doing a great job of keeping him behind, but he was weak at this point. Turn 3, he left the door open for Kreihammer. He's done it again. But seriously, the speed that Ferte has had in that Porsche Cayman. Energy by ART, been making a splash in the Southern Cup. The Northern Cup too is his hunting ground, and his next target is Cedric Kreihammer, who's about 3-4 seconds up the track. Now Zaba Moore goes up inside Jim Holder, so the last couple of laps have seen Jim Holder falling from 3rd. He's down into about number 6 at the moment. But Ferte is the driver on the charge. In behind the number 20 Cayman, that is entered by the Beza Group Racing Team. That's Franjo Kovac. Cora Schumacher started that, and Franjo being very polite out towards the edge of the circuit. Keeps out of the way, has to be on a bit of the circuit, so Zaba Moore slightly compromised on the exit of the hairpin. Jim Holder trying to hang on to the back of the McLaren as they go around Kovac. Oh, Jim Holder got blocked, and this is the chance for Schulter. He's taken the outside line, he's got more speed out of the corner, but that's unfortunately for Holder, moved him right off the tail of Zaba Moore. Moore was past and was going to pull away, but they can't get past Franjo Kovac. On the wrong side of the car there to try it at turn 12. Jim, he's going to try and tuck up the inside, which now he does. And look how the group behind has closed right in. That's allowed the McLaren of Duncan Heisman nearly door to door there with Jim Holder when he finally gets past Franjo Kovac. Dominic Schulter hasn't dared try, and more passing behind because Luke Brahms has just been passed by number 14 in the background, which is Reinhard Koffler. You can see the KTM really having quite a charge there as it gets in among the grouping. A little bit of news from the front of the field. The gap from 1st to 2nd has come down. A better lap in traffic, perhaps. Will Moore, 7.7 seconds down. But it's this battle behind. Kreihammer is still safe in 3rd place. 3.9 seconds clear of Ferte, but from number 10 backwards, Zaba Moore, it's super close. In fact, Saba's got clear of this group. It's the group behind, 6th place downwards. Holder still holding on, but different driver challenging each lap, and it's Reinhard Koffler in number 14 that is making the attack now, and again down into turn 3. There'll be nightmares for Jim Holder about not being able to hold people off into turn 3. Everywhere else he has things covered, but turn 3 has been his weak spot, unfortunately. But really an attack into turn 3 is a result of what happens, really the line you take into turn 1 many a time, because if you're in the wrong position for 1, you're in the wrong position for 2, and then you can't get into line for turn 3. I think pretty much that's what's happening. So Rudolf Schulter for Schwede Motorsport tucked in behind. Luke Brahms has rejoined that battle. Brahms in 9th, but Koffler's the one in the charge with the orange nose on his crossbow, having got past Jim Holder, able to pull away with some ease, it must be said. So a very good lap indeed for Koffler. Up to 6th place overall. Holder under attack. He's he was passed easily by Will Moore when he come out of the pits in second place, pushed back to third, and thereafter, unfortunately, he's been given a real lesson out on the circuit. But it's all about gaining experience. Jim Holder not been racing that long, and his car looks great, and certainly you can see it at the front end of the field. Would have given him a real smile at this stage, and it's all about gaining experience on tracks away from home, and the Nürburgring certainly one that is very technical indeed. Doing a great job holding off Rudolf Schulte now. Luke Brahms close behind in the last racing McLaren, again taking a tight line through the final corner. Now it looks like he's got the drag on Rudolf Schulte in this battle over 7th position. Has he got enough straight line speed to go past the Porsche Cayman? Little kink just past the pits. I reckon it's going to go down the inside line into turn 1. Schulte gave him a tiny bit of space, but of course at that point Brahms needed to go wide. There wasn't the space to do so, and now he's got Mads Siljehaug, the Norwegian racer, tucked in behind another of the KTM crossbows. They weren't at the front end of the grid, but they're working their way up the order. And for a lot of the cars, they've got their faster driver in second. Certainly Siljehaug has been a star for several years. There he is in 64. Brilliant putting down of the power. He's going to get 2 places out of turn 4. Well, he's got 1. He's in the wrong position for turn 5, but the speed with which he's caught them, well, he's in the right position for turn 5. He's died the other side of the circuit, so Siljehaug, massive charge for him. Chance there with Schulte way out of line for Brahms to close back in, but then he ran out of space to do so. Into the final 10 minutes of the race. Gap between first and second, 7.2 seconds between Max Cobalt and Will Moore, and it's very, very stable indeed. That said, last time half a second gained by Moore in his pursuit, but the clock is counting down. And Alain Ferté, there is Max Cobalt. Alain Ferté in 4th place, lapping a second lap faster than Laura Kreihammer, who's running 3rd. So, about to start lap number 23 is our race leader. There is the Aston Martin in 2nd place. Will Moore looks so he's gained a little bit more time around the lap. 9 minutes remaining on the clock. Then there's a gap, I think it's about a dozen seconds back to Laura Kreihammer, so there'll be some back markers. There's one of the Auto Orlando Sport Porsches. Where is Kreihammer? That's a back marker. There is Kreihammer coming through, and Alain Ferté behind, so the white Porsche Cayman with the red stripe up the nose, and then Saba Moore also going really well behind. Those are the top 5 runners, but I think the order's going to change. I think Kreihammer is going to have a real battle on her hand. In the background, Reinhard Koffler, who gained all those places, and look how he's dropped that grouping behind. Wow, it's been a really, really positive lap for Koffler in 14, and then Mads Siljehaug is the next car through, having gained 3 places on that lap, and there's the cluster of cars he's passed. And if anything, Jerome de May in that silver Aston Martin in the background is starting to catch up with those ahead. In fact, he should be with them in a lap or so. Holder's left it very wide. He's come right across the nose of Schulte. This should allow Brahms, if he can get the McLaren turned in, a chance to attack. He hasn't, and Holder's really gained in that sequence. But this is the battle we really want to watch. 74 still ahead. That's Kreihammer still ahead of the Porsche Cayman. Kreihammer getting very taily out of turn 5. Down the hill they carry on, but every time you look at Ferté, he's got that number 4 Porsche so well balanced. The same bit of trim that was hanging out of the front of the car, hanging off again today on the driver's left-hand side. Same bit of tape flapping around. It's a bonnet pull or something flapping at the front. Won't distract the driver, but look how the gap came down. Lost 0.4 of a second, gained 1.1, gained 0.9 of a second. So 2 seconds gained in 2 laps. Will a back marker get in their way in the battle for 3rd place? Well, there is one of the 2 Auto Orlando Porsches. That is the first candidate to, well, who knows if it's going to help Kreihammer in 3rd place or will it help Ferté in 4th. But they're both aware something could get in the way. Auto Orlando Sport Porsche out of turn 12, holding its line. Kreihammer doesn't have quite enough speed to go through before the kink. Now, I presume Kreihammer will go up the inside into the chicane, shaping up to go up the inside. Porsche too far back, will be trying to get the exit of the chicane just right. That was a great bit of driving by Kreihammer. Seems to have gained a little bit of ground now. Has the Auto Orlando 911 seen Ferté? Ferté driving over the curbs to make absolutely sure there's no danger of a side swipe there. But it was a better lap in terms of lap time for Kreihammer, I believe, than, well, it wasn't 0.3 of a second. So is that McLaren in the background closing in? Let's see how good a lap it was. No, actually lost a second. Is that Saba Moore? Reinhard Koffler, how good is the lap of the KTM crossbow? almost identical to Moore. So really it's that battle that we need to watch, and this one too. Jim Holder has done a really good job under huge pressure. Yes, a handful of cars have got past, and Rudolf Schulte has in recent laps. In fact, just had that change of position. Jim Holder back down to 9th place now. But I thought the Aston Martin was coming. Look out for Jerome Demey. And as Brahms dives up the inside, that could force both of them wide. That could give a chance to the Aston Martin and Demey to tuck up inside them. Didn't quite get past. Jim Holder got all sorts of dirt on his tyres. Through turn 2 though, he's lost that position to Brahms. Now he's drifting wide. This has been a corner where he has drifted wide, and the door has often been left open into turn 3. This time he's got it tight shut to stop another Aston Martin, this time of course in the hands of Jerome Demey coming in. But Demey had been catching Holder's little gaggle of cars by about 3 to 4 seconds a lap, so he will be going past, you can be sure of that. And now Holder's suddenly got back past Brahms. Don't really know where that happened. It must have been a mistake coming out of the stadium section from Brahms, so he's back behind the Aston Martin. Both Aston Martins have gone through. Almost the final 5 minutes of the race. Will Moore continuing to chip away, but only by about 1/10 of a second here and there. Full sunshine at the bottom end of the circuit. That is the battle, with Holder in 9th place, Brahms in 10th, and Demey, but of course Brahms is now in 11th, Demey into 10th. Battle for third continues to be close. Ferté in the number 4 Porsche Cayman, approaching the chicane, not close enough surely to make a move up the inside of Kraihammer. Kraihammer holds on in that 74 KTM crossbow. Entered by RYS team True Racing, and then into the final corner. Ferté so good at getting a tight line into that corner. Who's going to be able to get the power down sooner and harder? Well, it looks as though that little line didn't benefit either of the drivers. Simon Moore ought to be closing as these two fight, but seems not to have the speed at this point in the race. Let's see. In fact, he's lost another little bit, but very much a case of Ferté knows now he's got probably two, possibly 3 laps, I'd say, until the checkered flag. He's now level with the KTM crossbow, but on the wrong line at turn 2. So down the hill they come, still Ferté pushing very, very hard. Oh, bit of a mistake from Kraihammer, too far over the curbs, not allowed over there. Didn't back off the power, but enough momentum was lost. But Kraihammer, well, I was going to say, could still have the inside land into turn 5, but there comes the move. Alain Ferté, look, happy to kick the tail out on that Porsche Cayman, celebrating in many ways. The just too much speed carried out of turn 4, couldn't get the grip coming out of the corner. Just tried to put the power down too soon, and Laura Kraihammer lost out there. Been a really good run by Kraihammer, but Ferté was the driver coming through. There's Saber Moore in the McLaren. He cannot close on them. He's close, but I thought he might be able to catch them and go for the podium, but the pace of Ferté was such, and Kraihammer really fought back in the attempt to hold on to that 3rd position. But right now it's Max Cobalt leading by 6.1 seconds. The gap continues to come down over Will Moore. Then another 18 seconds back to the start-finish line, back to the Kraihammer-Ferté battle. But of course it's now the Ferté-Kraihammer battle as those positions have changed place. Ferté, the leader in the Pro-Am class by 4 positions. Leader in the Am class at this stage in the race. Again, Autolandi Sport, it's Giuseppe Jesi and Emanuele Mengozzi. There is our race leader. We have to do this lap and one more. Max Cobalt, now down to 5.1 seconds. He's just controlling it from the front. When you're sitting on a buffer that had been around 8 seconds, you can shed a 10th here, you can shed a 10th there. All Will Moore can do is press on. But certainly the Academy Motorsport Aston Martin duo, he and Matt Nicol-Jones, have been on very, very strong form here at the Nürburgring. There in 3rd place, confirmed now, 20 seconds down on Will Moore, is Alain Ferté. That passing manoeuvre delayed both of them a little bit, but just a loss of grip and going too soon out of turn 4 led to Kraihammer falling down to 4th place. They're now falling away. Be interested to see what sort of pace we can have from Alain Ferté around this lap, but with under 2 minutes remaining till the checkered flag will be shown. The final race of the 2017 GT4 European Series, the Northern Cup. Of course, the Southern Cup still has a little more life in it yet. It's been a great season, a season of expansion, a season in which a lot of drivers have gained experience at this level, brought new cars into the championship, more manufacturers, not just on the slate, the cars are getting ready first few will be delivered in the closed season, ready for next year. So we're going to have a different mix of cars on the grid next year. The KTM Crossbows will continue to be a staple of the championship. That's Reinhard Koffler, who worked his way through that fight for 10th place. He's up to 6th. In fact, lapping at very, very competitive pace, but he's too far behind. He's 6 and a bit seconds behind Sabermore's McLaren. That's the one we've seen in recent laps. And Mads Siljehaug, he's had a really good end to the race too. In fact, he just set his car's fastest lap of the race last time around, lapping faster than the race leader. So there you have. In a two-driver race, you can often have these little anomalies. Pressing on very hard indeed. Wonderful shot showing the Eiffel Forest in the background. Of course, the circuit here at the Nürburgring nestling in the forest in the southwest corner of Germany. Siljehaug catching up with Reinhard Koffler, but it's on to the final lap for Max Kobold. Lights ablaze. His advantage down to almost precisely 5 seconds. 5.006 seconds. He can afford to have even slightly scrappy lines around here. But it's all controlling the race from the front. Victory yesterday and today. It looks, barring a disaster, it's a double for the 2017 overall champions. Ricardo van der Ende, who started the race, and now Max Kobold, who started yesterday's race from pole position, making it a wonderful weekend at the circuit. Have they got the point for the benefit of the fastest lap as well? No, in fact, the fastest lap in the race, I think, has been set by number 144, been set by Matthew George in that chase in the early stage in the race. But that car has now fallen back to 10th place overall. But it matters not. The story of 2017 has been the Equus Motorsport team. Wonderful driving pairing. Ricardo van der Ende and Max Kobold. It's Max at the wheel at the moment, bringing it home. This will be win number 5 from their 12 starts in the season. It's been very, very fruitful indeed. Nice clean lines, all under control. Nothing more Will Moore can do. They'll be pleased with their 2 second places. There is the Aston Martin. Do I sense it's slightly closer? Well, you might be talking about a 10th or 2, but another solid weekend for them. In fact, their best weekend of the season. No wins for the Aston Martin, but that will be their 4th second place. So these podium results certainly move them up the championship table or confirm their preeminence if it hadn't been for the Equus duo. Alain Ferte, wonderful drive. 3rd place, victory in the Pro-Am class. So 6th yesterday to win the class. Today, it's theirs all over again. Wonderful drive. The AM class still looks as though it's going to go to Giuseppe Genzi. 76. There is the checkered flag. There is the season completed for this year's champions. Great result. 2nd place too for Will Moore, Matt Nicol-Jones, 4.6 seconds in arrears. Then to win the Pro-Am class, Alain Ferte, started by Grégoire Demoustier, literally has not put a wheel wrong. Started some way down in the pack, so they had to be careful, had to be cautious, but have done just that. So a clear win for them in the Pro-Am class. And then I thought we'd had to change of positions, very similar liveries, but Reinhard Koffler coming home behind Saber Moore. It was a different KTM crossing line. Mads Siljehaug in the background, the other black and orange-nosed KTM crossbow. So plenty of manufacturer variety, which is how we like it at the front end of the field. Waiting for the second car to come home. There is the car that's going to win the AM class. That's the Auto Orlando Porsche, number 76. We've seen Ferte win the Pro-Am class. So that is the AM winner, comfortably clear. 2 positions on track of car number 21, which will be second in that class, which is it. Joachim Bulting in an Allied Racing Porsche Cayman. So they're crossing the line now, the final class winner of the year, Auto Orlando Sports. Very tidily done indeed. And just worthy of mention, 8th overall, 2nd in the Pro-Am class. Rudolf Schultz, a really good drive for the new team this weekend. He shared that with Dominic Schrammel. And unfortunately their teammates, Philippe Betker and Marc Basseng, who started the outside the front row, taken out at the first corner when the Porsche Caymans all came together. But it's been a great year, really good way to end it. The sun as bright as ever at the Nürburgring. 2 Maseratis bringing up the mid-order there, sounding great, but these days the target is continually moving. And just mentioned the third car in the AM class, 18th place overall is car number 11, and it's even Vlachov, and he had a drive-through penalty, a stop-go for 1 second, I seem to recall, in the Sin. So the last handful of cars, I think, have now seen the checkered flag, but the car that will be first, well, was stopped by the number 1 in Parc Fermé, did so yesterday, knows the route there. It's Max Cobalt and Ricardo van der Ende, their 5th win of their 2017 campaign. A job very, very well done indeed. Let's look at the results. So Max Cobalt coming home 4.6 seconds clear of Wilmore, who gave chase in his Aston Martin. Top in Pro-Am class, Alain Ferté completing the starting job of Grégoire Demoustier, who worked his way forward. Laura Kreihammer, Cedric Freiberghaus, really good result for them. Top car in the AM class was in 12th place overall. Second in class, Scheller and Bolting in 16th overall. Vast number. We had 37 starters, 29 finishers there, and most unfortunate was Marc Basseng being taken out at turn 1 on the opening lap. But the glory, the joy, the biggest smiles of all, the drivers who've really perfected it in 2017, opening the door to climb out. You can't see his smile, but you probably can in his eyes. There's Max Cobalt, Ricardo van der Ende, led away from pole. Everything totally under control for the duo. So Ecris Motorsport really, really happy with proceedings there. The Dutch crew entered by the Dutch team, showing how it should be done in the background. Second place for the 62 crew, Matt Nicol-Jones. Big smile on his face. He's waiting for his car to be brought in, and Wilmore just arriving now, so good weekend for them. Ricardo van der Ende late for only one thing, the welcome home party. And there it is, big hug for Max Cobalt. It looks like a very different day. It's quite grey at the start of the race now. The season ends in sunshine. And let's go down and speak to two drivers who know how to give winning conversation. Win Dakota, Max Cobalt, Ricardo van der Ende.
Boys, an absolute total domination this weekend from the both of you. Happy?
Yeah, very happy. 2 wins, 2 pole position. I think a weekend's gonna get better than this.
You guys seem unstoppable, is that true?
We're a good combination, and with the team, I've got to say, we did a lot of hard work because we developed the car ourselves, we built it ourselves, and we're really proud on the product now. So, hey Chris, thank you.
Congrats guys, go get a trophy.
Very, very impressive indeed. So, final lap of the season now completed, and it is that. They have the lone BMW M4, so all the work falls on the shoulders of the Ecris Motorsport team. And just a couple of drivers. Well, let's go down. Dakota's caught up with Matt Nicol-Jones, who finished second with Wilmore.
Guys, P2, that's a pretty good result. You happy?
Yeah, really happy. We needed to beat car 34, that was our main goal, so this boy did a fantastic job. Really, really good. Put some pressure on the BMW, but I think they had the legs on us all weekend, so that's the best we could have hoped for, and great job by everybody, especially this one.
Do you feel like you've done a fantastic job?
P7 to P2 on the first corner. I think it all goes to this man here. I just maintained it. I chased the BM down, but we've come away with P2 in the pro class in our championship, so we can't say any better than that.
Now take that helmet off and go to the podium and get your trophy. Congrats, guys.
Just trying to keep the heat in. Obviously, Wilmore there, very pleased, but that was a fantastic start, as he pointed out. Matt Nicol-Jones just had the hammer down, up by the pit wall from 7th on the grid to 2nd, and they're suitably satisfied with their race. But let's go down to the 3rd place crew. Alain Ferté and Grégoire Demoustier down in Parc Fermé with Dakota.
Guys, a massive congratulations. You guys look so happy with that result.
Yeah, we really worked a lot and we're really happy. We gotta go to the podium now, I'm sorry.
Those BMWs seem unstoppable.
Yeah, the BMWs was all the season very strong, but we kept the pressure on, and we'll see what next year.
You two must be very proud. Go to the podium, go, go, go!
Right, off to the podium. Just want to point out, that was the car that was 4th over the finish line. That was Laura Kreihammer, who really drove fantastic at the end of the race, and Cedric Freiberghaus. But the Pro-Am winner was the number 4 car that was 3rd over the finish line, Grégoire Demoustier and Alain Ferté. So if you're expecting Alain Ferté, here's a look at the start. You just saw the Aston Martin go out the inside. Look for the outside of turn 1, because Mark Basseng pushed wide and 2 Porsche Caymans then clattered into him, and that was him out of the race. So not the best of starts for Schrader Motorsport, but their sister car, number 15, right in the mix, having a little bit of a body blow into turn 4 with the 007 Aston Martin. Julian Darras at the wheel, but they carried on, and the racing was fantastic at the front end of the field. Not so good if your door was hanging off, however. That took a lap until Hendrick still brought that one into the pits. The 222 and the Villarino Cayman, that had the problem on the opening lap and limped back to the pits. Then 77 off in the gravel, that was Romy Dalla Antonia, and this was one of the battles of the race. Jörg Wiebahn trying his utmost to hold off Nico Rindisbacher, who tried every move, couldn't put it off, and they came into the pits absolutely together in their Porsche Caymans. But the job was done. Ricardo van der Ende handed over to Max Cobalt, and it emerged in the lead of the race. The second place Aston Martin coming down the straight there, now with Will Moore at the wheel. But still later, the last possible chance to come in, Matthew George, and he brought the car into the pit, and it came out with Jim Holder at the wheel right next to the race leader, so close before the pit stop, even closer afterwards. But Jim Holder just couldn't resist the charge from behind, doesn't have the experience of Matthew George, and he battled and battled. And 74 coming through, that was Laura Kryhammer. But the driver really making the moves was number 4, Alain Ferte, leading the Pro-Am class right on the tail of Jim Holder, and he picked off that car, the next one, eventually was third at the finish of the race. A great drive from the French veteran. No wonder they won the Pro-Am class. But then, here we go. Another passing manoeuvre. This is now Mads Siljehaug making his way up the order. Alain Ferte getting closer, and this is the moment that Laura Kryhammer cracked over the curb on the exit of turn 4. Ferte didn't need a second invitation, up into third place. But at the end of the race, it was the Ecris BMW where it had been all race long. There's the checkered flag, the last win of 2017. What a pairing. Ecris Motorsport with Max Cobalt and Ricardo van der Ende. So, waiting for the podium at the end of the season. There's Max Brahms, series organiser, series manager, makes it all happen. He must be delighted with the form through the course of the season. The growth of not one championship, but 2, the Northern Cup and the Southern Cup. And it feels like the Southern Cup, grey morning turns to bright sunshine for the final podium ceremonies of 2017. So Cedric Freiberg-Haus and Laura Kryhammer out onto the podium to the third step. Matt Nicol-Jones and Will Moore out into second place. Bit of hesitation there from Will Moore. Out they go. They've had a great weekend, 2 second places, but no one had a better weekend than the 2017 champions from the Ecris Motorsport crew. Max Cobalt shaking hands on the right and Ricardo van der Ende on the left. Well, yet more delight from the winning crew, waving to their friends up on the roof, waiting for yet more trophies for the Ecris Motorsport cupboard. So wonderful battling at the end of the race there by Laura Kryhammer. Great opening stint by Cedric Freiberg-Haus, her Swiss teammate. Second place trophies to match yesterday's second place trophies for Will Moore on the left and Matt Nicol-Jones on the right. They thoroughly enjoyed their weekend's racing in their Academy Motorsport Aston Martin. Applause all round. And the biggest trophies of all for Ecris Motorsport for Ricardo van der Ende and Max Cobalt. Yes, indeed. Win number 5 from 12 starts. Only one occasion they were not on the podium. So it's been a remarkable year for the Ecris crew. They've set the gold standard. It's up to everybody else to see what they can do to close it down in 2018. But it's been a wonderful season, particularly for the European Series Northern Cup. Huge grids of cars. What a growth area of motorsport. And time for the final champagne blast of the year for Cobalt, van der Ende, Moore and Jones, and Kryhammer and Cedric Freiberg-Haus. Of course, we'll have the other podiums following shortly, but for the front-running crews, that's it for 2017. But smiles all round in the Ecris camp. So waiting for more photographs. They want this season to end. It's been such a good year, but end it must, and end it has for the top handful of runners. Now waiting for the next visitors to the podium. I see Alain Ferté wiping his face down. This is the Pro-Am runners who will be coming out. As they come out in what would be reverse order, the third place crew should be Luke Brahms and Duncan Houseman, just waiting for them to be signalled out. There's Duncan. Saw the figure of Luke Brahms going out. They're happy with that. They're running the Las Maras Racing McLaren. Second in class, the number 15 crew, Rudolf Schulte and Dominic Strabel. So they just joined this weekend. And then here we have Alain Ferté and the younger figure of Grégoire Demoustier. What a drive, up to third place overall. So more trophies being brought out to present to the crews. So in the world of McLaren and Las Maras Racing, Duncan Houseman and Luke Brahms, third place in the Pro-Am class, 10th place overall. Second place, the newcomers this weekend, Schulte and Schrammel, Schrader Motorsport in their Porsche Cayman. They crossed the line in 8th place. And third place overall. Victory, Grégoire Demoustier, another Porsche Cayman crew, but this is Energy by ART. He and Alain Ferté, with Alain putting that fantastic charge on at the end of the race. And after the anthems, the trophies, it's the champagne. So time for the grid girls, the podium girls, to run to the side and get out of the way. But Luke Brahms getting an earful there as he's looking for someone to be his prey. But for the Schrader Motorsport duo, they don't want to leave the podium, but they've had such a good weekend, made a real splash in the championship, and hopefully we'll see their two Porsche Caymans in 2018. So they've made quite an impact, and if it hadn't been the impact down at the first corner, we could have had their sister car up on right at the sharp end of the field, with Mark Basseng denied the chance to get past turn one. So they've had the overall podium for the pros, the Pro-Ams, and now that leaves the Am class. Yesterday it was won by car number 76, and today it was won by car 76. 16th place yesterday, went better today. 12th place overall for Giuseppe Gezzi and Emanuele Mengozzi, just waiting for them to be flagged out for the final podium of the GT4 European Series Northern Cup. But the first crew to be called out should be a one-man crew. There we are, Ivan Vlachov driving solo in the Sofia Car Motorsport Sin R1. If he hadn't had that 1 second stop and go penalty, he's standing on the top step of the podium, but I think he'll be moved across shortly. Because the crew that's coming out in second place is car 21. That is one of the Allied Racing Porsche Caymans, Nicholas Scheller and Joachim Bulting. So great delights, the 5th class win this year from 12 starts for Giuseppe Gezzi and Emanuele Mengozzi. So congratulations to them. It's been a cracking year for them in the AM class, the GT4 European Series Northern Cup. 37 cars here to play at the Nürburgring. Just a summation of how this championship has grown across the years. Bigger and better is the story they are all looking for, and it's what they have delivered through 2017. So let's see where this can go in the months ahead. They've got a chance to gather over the closed season, but it's been a wonderful seasons of racing, and the overall champions of course, Ricardo van der Ende and Max Kobel. But in the AM class, trophies just as important. They're not competing for overall honours, they're competing for honours in class. So every single position gained counts, and that's what the drivers know. A lot of people getting a shot at racing on the international stage in this, and I'm sure it will go from strength to strength. It's been a wonderful season, and it's fitting it ends in sunshine. So 2017 is now at the end. The last champagne has been sprayed, the last trophies presented. Nürburgring brings it to a close. Remember, Ecris Motorsport, they're the winners in 2017.